Hi guys, thank you all for watching and welcome back to Sewing Lara. Today we'll crochet these cute pumpkins. I will be explaining everything very detailed, so if you never held a crochet hook in your hand or if you are a complete beginner, you'll be able to follow this tutorial because I will be explaining everything step by step from the very first step. And if that's something you're interested in, then please keep watching. For our today's project, you will need yarn in the colors of your choice. You can choose either totally subtle colors like these two, for example, or you can go for the very bright color scheme. That is entirely up to you. You will need a crochet hook, scissors, and a needle with rather a large eye, and something that will work for you as stuffings. So I have here these stuffings from old pillows, and I'm gonna use these. But before we start, let me show you two already finished pumpkins first, just to give you an idea what our work is going to look like once we'll be done, and how you can vary with color scheme. And I also wanted to show you these two because it shows the size difference depending on how many stitches you will cast. So I made this pumpkin with 20 stitches, and for this one I cast 30 stitches, and you can see the size difference is pretty big. So we will start with a pumpkin in these subtle colors, and for that one I'll cast now something right in the middle. I'll cast 25 stitches. We will start with casting on. So I grab the yarn like so, and then I pull it over my thumb, underneath my thumb and back over the index finger, and then I hold the yarn here with the fingers. I grab my crochet hook and go here, kind of behind my thumb, grab the yarn, then go underneath this section of the yarn that goes over my index finger, and I pull it through this loop, and then I have the first eye. Now you see that this end of the yarn is pretty long. I will use this in order to stitch the end, like one end of the pumpkin together. That's why I decided to leave it that long, but you can make it shorter, it's up to you. Now I will wrap the yarn several times around my index finger. I will hold on the loose end, and I pull this end together because it's gonna secure the yarn. Now I grab my crochet hook, I go underneath the yarn and pull the yarn through. And I'm not gonna make it too tight. And here I created my first stitch, or the eye basically. That's gonna be the base for my stitch. So I said I'm gonna cast 25. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you see this looks like a little braid, and I'm gonna continue doing this until I'll have 25. So we have 5 now, 6, 7, 8. Now we have these 25 stitches. I will wrap the yarn again around my index finger, and I will make 2 more stitches because we will create then a row of double crochets, and that's going to be quite high, and these 2 double crochet are going to create kind of the corner, right? So I will, it's called yarn over. That means I will take the crochet hook and go underneath the yarn, see? And now I have 2 loops on the crochet hook. I will go into the 3rd stitch from the end now and pull through, yarn over again, meaning going underneath the yarn and pulling it through. And now I have 3 loops on my crochet hook. I will yarn over again and pull it through the first 2 loops. I will end up with 2 loops on the crochet hook, and then I will yarn over again, pull through, and I just created my first double crochet. I will repeat it again slowly. So I will yarn over, go in the next stitch, yarn over, and pull the yarn through the stitch. Now we have 3 loops on my crochet hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the 2 remaining loops. And we are going to continue like this till the end of the row. I just finished my first row. Here's what it looks like. So just to compare the pumpkins, you can tell that it is definitely a bit longer, the row, than for this pumpkin, but it is still shorter than for this pumpkin. So again, we're gonna be somewhere in the middle when we compare it with these 2. So I finished the row. I was basically having the hook on my left side. Now I will turn my work around so that the hook is gonna be again on my right side. I'm going to wrap the yarn again a couple of times around my index finger, and I will crochet 2 more stitches. Now sometimes with the yarn, when it's really not well spun, the yarn keeps parting, so you have to be careful when you pull it through that you pull through the entire eye and don't get stuck. This yarn is not of great quality, so it happens to me sometimes quite a lot. It can be very annoying, but don't worry. So I just made 2 more stitches, which is in order to create the distance that we need for the next row. And now we will start again with double crochets. But when you look at the top of the stitches, you will see that the top looks like a braid. I think this way you should see it better when I zoomed in. And what you want to do is, whenever you'll be pulling your crochet hook while making the double crochets through this row, you want to go only through half of these braid V's. It looks like little V's. So you want to go only through this back part of the V, which is going to create then this structure, so that the pumpkin is not going to be completely smooth, but it's going to have like these rows that are standing kind of out, and that's what makes the pattern so cute and perfect for our today's project. So I already made these 2 extra stitches that create the edge of our next row. I will yarn over, go through the first stitch of the row, or actually it's the second stitch, because the first stitch is here, and if I would pull it here through, it would be a little too tight. So let's go here through the second. And I will yarn over, create my 3rd loop on the crochet hook, yarn over, pull it through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over again and finish my double crochet stitch. And again, yarn over, go through the end part of the next V, yarn over, create 3rd hook for your crochet hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 stitches, yarn over, finish your 2nd double crochet stitch. And you can see that now the next row is kind of lowered a little bit, and these 2 stitches already stand out a little bit. I hope you can see that. It's gonna be more visible once we finished the row. So I'm just gonna continue doing this the same way. Again, yarn over, pull through the back part of the V, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops on the crochet hook, yarn over, through the second crochet, not crochet hooks, loops on the crochet hook. We have the 3rd stitch, and now this edge should be a little bit more visible. So let's finish this row. I just finished my 2nd row, so I'm gonna turn my work around again. We'll wrap the yarn around my index finger. Again, I'll make 2 extra stitches at the end. And then I yarn over and go to the second stitch of the row and create next double crochet and so on. I think at this point you got the idea, so there's no need to explain this. Important is that you always go only in the back part of the V's of the stitches, because that's gonna create the nice edge that stands out. And other than that, you're just good to go and make as many rows as you want to in order to create your pumpkin. It depends on how flat or round you want the pumpkin to be. I just finished the 4th row, and here you can already see how the structure is coming out due to pulling through only part of the V's of the stitches. So I will finish the entire size and then we'll take it from there. Alright, so I made 20 rows. I could make 5 more, but I think this is big enough for what I had in mind. So now I'm going to grab the end of the yarn here, leave it rather longer, and I'm gonna chop it off. And then I'm gonna yarn over and pull the end through the last stitch. See? Now I'm gonna grab the needle and I'm gonna pull the yarn through the needle, and first I'm going to sew together the ends here like so. So you have to look at what side looks best to you and decide how you want to sew it together. I think here it doesn't really matter, so I'm just gonna fold it like so. And I am going to stitch it together so that it creates again another edge. So I'm going to pull here always through the front of the V's, and here it kind of doesn't matter if you go through the entire V, but you can go only through the front or through the back. But here, when I go through the front, then it's gonna create an edge, just like when I was crocheting. And I'm basically going to do a very simple stitch. If you want to learn more about hand stitching, I have an entire playlist dedicated to that, so I'll link it down below. The way I'm doing it here is I always pull through one stitch, the front part of the stitch looking from my position, and go through the stitch on the opposite side and pull through. So that way I secure every single stitch, and when you turn it over, you see it's creating this edge here. Alright, so I'll finish this and then we will take it from there again. I still have here this long end, but I'll need that later. So now I'm gonna turn the work inside out. So here you can see it created the edge, so it's all structured, and I'm just gonna pull this yarn through inside because I'm gonna use it for the other side to stitch the end together, and I'll use this end that I have just used for stitching the side together, and I'm just gonna do a simple running stitch through this bottom edge like so. And now I will pull on the yarn and pull the end together. I will turn the pumpkin again inside out, and I will stitch here this opening properly together on several places, basically, just to make sure that it's not gonna stay open. And now I will create a knot. So I pull the yarns twice around the needle, and then I pull the threads through, pull tight, and then I'll chop the end off. So now I'm gonna turn the pumpkin again to the right side. I will leave this yarn looking out, and I will take a bit of the stuffings, and I'm gonna stuff the pumpkin with it. And I'm kind of gonna look that the yarn remains in the center. See, like wrap the stuffings around the yarn so that it comes through the middle. And stuff the pumpkin as much as you want to, because once you stitch it together, it shouldn't be too loose so that, you know, it wouldn't like hang. These stuffings are like kind of, they stick together, so I always like to fluff them up a little bit so that they create a neater shape. And I think this should be enough. So it's kind of like a really big handful of the stuffings, but again, like this is something you just have to see what works for you the best. So I'm gonna pull on the yarn a little bit, which is going to pull the bottom inside, and I'm gonna pull the end of the yarn through the eye of the needle. So now I'm just gonna pull the needle through somewhere here on the side, and I'm gonna do the running stitch again, and then I will pull it tight in order to close this end of the pumpkin. And when I'm using the bottom yarn, it already pulls this end kind of in so that it has the pumpkin shape. So that's why I like using the end of the stitches when I cast them on. This is the way I prefer it, but it doesn't matter. You could just simply yarn, like thread the needle and start with a fresh piece of yarn here on the top. It doesn't have to be done this way. If you had like a short end of the cast on stitches. Now, so I finish like so, and you see, since I pulled the bottom yarn through, it's already a little flatter. Now what I'm gonna do is, since I'll be sewing here on then the pumpkin stem that we yet have to crochet, I don't really care much about this, that it's perfect, but what I want to do is to stitch through on a few places. So if you imagine that this is the center, you want to stitch on a few places around the center, like here, so that it's not just pulled through like a button, not button, but button, that's what I wanted to say. You just want to flatten the shape a little bit. And yeah, just do it the way it looks good to you. There's no right and wrong. As long as it looks pumpkin-y to you, you're good to go. So I'm basically going like in a circle around the center. And I also feel that it's really good to do it in a little irregular shape. It doesn't matter if one side of the pumpkin is a little bit higher, because it makes it even more pumpkin-y looking, because pumpkins are not super symmetrical. So that's why I like having one side slightly higher. And then you just have to shape it with your hands like so. So once you stitch through multiple times and you're happy with the result, all you have to do is to make a knot at the end like so. Again, I like to stitch one more time through, pull the thread around the needle, pull through, and there you have it. So that's a pumpkin. See, this is like, you can compare the sizes now. So 20 stitches, 25 stitches, 30 stitches. So that's the size difference. And I will shape the pumpkin a little bit more and put it to the side for the time being. And now we will grab this yarn and I will cast 10 stitches. And again, I'll leave the end a little bit longer. So just like with the beginning, I grab the yarn like so, wrap it around my thumb, below the thumb, over the index finger, hold it, pull the crochet hook here underneath the yarn, yarn over and pull it through the loop and pull it a little bit tighter, and then we have our first eye. And now let's make 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3. I will pull it tight a little bit, not too tight. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now I will make one more stitch. I will yarn over, go through the second stitch from the end and make a half double crochet. So now when I have these 3 loops, instead of going underneath the yarn and pulling through the first 2 loops and then yarning over and pulling through the last 2 loops, I pull through all 3 loops, like so. So that's half double crochet. Again, yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, and now yarn over again and pull through all 3 loops. Let me do this one more time close up. Yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch. Now you have 3 loops on your crochet hook, yarn over and pull through all the 3 hooks. So I will continue doing half double crochets and I will make probably 3 rows. I made 3 rows and I decided that's not wide enough, so I will add a 4th row. But again, like if you don't care that your stem is thinner, you can do just 3 rows. Also, just an idea, I've seen people saying in the comments of a tutorial that I watched before I started making these pumpkins that sometimes they just put a cinnamon stick in the center instead of crocheting a stem. So that might be something you would want to consider, because I think that would also smell wonderful and add a lovely scent to your home during the fall. The yarn just started changing colors and I came to the section where it's brown, so I'm just gonna chop it very shortly. Then I'll grab my crochet hook and I'll go through like so and pull tightly through. I will grab the end of the yarn on the opposite side and pull it through the needle, and I'm going to stitch the ends. And I'm going to stitch this edge together. I will also stitch together here this end, just basically pulling through with leather stitch. Very simple. Again, for hand sewing tips, you can look into my playlist Hand Sewing for Beginners. So and now I will not be stitching all the way to the bottom, because what I want is to create the base of the stem. So I'm going to stitch, I'd say like 7 stitches through and leave the 3 last stitches open. And I will use this as the base of the stem. So let me stitch one more time through. I will secure it with a knot. And now I will place it on the pumpkin. And see, when I open the bottom, like so, the stem is going to be a little bit sticking to the side. It's not symmetrical. And B, this will create the illusion like this is the base of the stem. I just find this looks really cute and it looks kind of more natural. If you compare it with this, where I have just stitched the stem on, plus I made the stitch much longer, I find that this looks better, but that's of course entirely up to you, whatever looks better to you. But I personally prefer this. And now I'm going to secure it with a leather stitch to the center of the pumpkin. And at the end, I just like shaping the pumpkin with my hands a little bit to give it a more of a pumpkin-y look, the way I think it looks the best. And then my pumpkin is finished. Now we will start making a colorful pumpkin, and I'm gonna use this yarn for the stem because right now I reached the section where it's brown and beige and white, and I think that's gonna look nice as the stem. So I will cast on 20 stitches this time, so that means we're gonna make this size. I will start with the yellow yarn. So let's start. I will make 2 more stitches. I will yarn over, go to the 3rd stitch from the end now, and do a double crochet. And I will double crochet all the way through till the other end of the row. And as I'm making the next row of double crochets, just like with the first pumpkin, I'm pulling the crochet hook only through half of the V of each stitch, and I'm choosing the back half. And that will create again this structure that we want for the pumpkin. Now I finished the 2nd row and we want to swap colors. I will start with the green. So I will continue just with the green color. I will make 2 stitches here, and I will chop off the yellow yarn like so. And I will hold these 2 yarns close to the V's here, because what I want is to crochet that in. So I have 2 extra stitches now, so I will yarn over, go through the back of the V, and pull the yarn through like so, enclosing these 2 ends between the loops on the crochet hook and between the yarn. And that's gonna crochet it to the row, so it's not gonna stick out. So now I'm gonna yarn over, I couldn't remember the words, pull through the first 2 loops of the, on my hook. I kind of forgot my words. And then now I yarned over again and pulled again through the other 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the back of the next V, then yarn over, pull through, and again you can see that it's holding the ends of the 2 colorful yarns, and it's just not gonna stick anywhere. So I made another double crochet, and I will continue so till the end of the row and till the yarn that is sticking out is closed in. So this is what it looks like when I made 1 row of green. You can see here on the back where I pulled through the end of the yellow yarn, I somewhere chopped the end of the green yarn because it was hard to work with it when only like a little piece stuck out, and that way the yarn is nicely hidden. Now I will chop off again this green yarn and I will go back to yellow. So I will hold these 2 ends like so. You can even make a little knot here if you want to, if you feel like it's gonna be more secure. I don't think it's necessary, but it might make it easier to work with for you, and you just have to try out what works better. So I'm just gonna make a knot here like so. Then I'll hold these 2 loose ends to the row that I will be crocheting right now, and I will wrap the yarn around my finger, make 2 extra stitches, then I will yarn over and go through the back of the next stitch, and again making sure I will enclose the loose ends of the yarns, and I will continue doing a double crochet. I came to a point where I feel like the yarn is secure enough, so I'm just gonna chop the ends off. so that I don't have to bother with it anymore. And the only difference now will be that this will be the right side, and here this is gonna be the wrong side, because the yarn could kind of, you know, stick out, and you want the front to be neat for your pumpkin. So again, I'll continue doing double crochets to the end. Now I finished the second row of yellow. I will turn my work around and we'll go in with red. Now I finished the red row, so I'm just gonna chop off the end. I will leave the hook in. And I also wanted to show you, if you don't feel like enclosing the yarn, all you have to do is to make a knot and simply leave the loose ends there, because you can hide them then later when you will be stitching together the pumpkin, and they're simply gonna be inside, so they're not really gonna bother you. So that's another option if you just want to keep it simple. And I will now make again 2 rows of double crochet in yellow. So I just finished in total 17 rows. I think this is more than enough. And I also pulled the yarn through the last stitch. Now I'm going to thread the needle, and I'm going to finish the pumpkin the same way I did this one. So I will first stitch together these sides, then the bottom, stuff it, and then the top, and then I will also make the stem. I'm gonna make the stem exactly the same way. It's gonna be 10 stitches, 4 rows of half double crochets, and I will stitch it on exactly the same way I did. Alright, so the pumpkin is now finished too. The only thing I personally don't like so much is the color scheme that came through with this yarn. When you look at it, there is also a little bit of white in the yarn, and that came through when I was making the stem. I personally would have preferred it just dark brown and beige, but I have here somewhere textile marker, which is black, so I'm just gonna go over the white, and I'm simply going to paint it darker because I find it looks better. So this is gonna fix the little flaw, even though it's just flaw in my opinion. If you wouldn't mind the look, there's nothing wrong with it. I just personally don't like it. So let me fix it like so, and see with the textile marker it's covered, and I find it looks much better. One more thing to say is this pumpkin has as many stitches actually as this one, but it's considerably bigger. It's basically just as big as the one with 25 stitches, and that's because the colorful yarn is a little bit thicker. When you put the yarn next to the beige yarn, it looks as though it's the same thickness, but when I touch it, I can feel that the colorful yarn is definitely sturdier and puffier, and this one kind of stretches out thin when you crochet it. So the thicker your yarn will be, the bigger your work might be at the end. And here is what all the pumpkins look like. You can let me know in the comments which version do you prefer, if you would go rather for the version with multiple colors, or if you would prefer rather subtle tones. I honestly first wanted to make these with a darker shade of orange, but unfortunately I couldn't get anywhere here close by a yarn in the color that I had in my mind, so I decided to take something I already had at home, and I went with the beige. At first I wasn't so sure if I would like it, but actually they turned out really cute, and the good thing is they go so well with the decor in my husband's room, like in his home office, which is where they live now. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like this video. If you enjoyed the tutorial, you can also share it, subscribe, turn on the notification, yada yada yada. You've heard that a million times, but it really supports the channel. I appreciate you guys very much. God bless you, and see you soon. Bye.